So today's video, I'm going to just be talking about what I personally want to see in Marvel Spider-Man 2. I'm going to be talking about a bunch of different things, whether it be suits, gameplay, mechanics, storylines, plot points, etc. So yeah, let's get started. So first, we'll talk about suits. I think this is something that's been rumored already, but I want there to be a symbiote version of every suit we get. That would be pretty cool. Imagine like a symbiote variation of like these suits. I'll throw them up on the screen. I think that'd be pretty cool. Now, in terms of specific suits I want to see, a no-brainer is definitely the TASM 2 suit. This thing is beautiful. Next suit I want to see is the Scott Johnson suit. This is like every Spider-Man kid's childhood from the early 2000s, and there's a symbiote version of it too. If I can find it, I'll put it on the screen right here, but these two suits are amazing. We definitely need to see those in Marvel Spider-Man 2. So now another idea I propose, and this is probably unlikely for the second game, maybe like the third or fourth if they even get that far, but who knows. We need a suit builder. Now this has been talked about in the community for like a little while, I think. I'm gonna break it down simple though. So right, Spider-Man suits have like 5 main components: the eyes or lenses, the front spider, the back spider, the webbing, and the red/blue pieces of the costume. That's 5, right? Or technically that's 6 because of the red and blue. I don't know. Either way, those are the main components, right? So I think it should work like, okay, so let's say you unlock the new advanced suit 2.0, right? You unlock that costume, but in the suit builder, you unlock each individual like component to that costume that you can use on another costume, if that makes sense. So let's say you want the TASM 2 suit, you want to use that suit, but let's say you want to change the front spider logo to the advanced suit 2.0 logo, like the front spider. Or maybe you want Tom Holland's new classic suit at the end of No Way Home. You want that exact suit, but instead you want to change the lenses for Andrew Garfield's TASM 2 big bug eyes lenses or whatever. I think a concept system like that would be cool, but would take a lot of time to create, I imagine, especially if they have like all the suits or most of the suits from the first 2 games, and on top of that have symbiote variations, and on top of that add new suits, and on top of that the original designs that they're probably going to end up doing for the second game as well. So that's a lot, and why I think this is unlikely for the second game, but again, you know, it would be pretty cool to see if they can pull it off. So now gameplay mechanics and web swinging. So this is a rumor as well, but I'm going to mention it and like add more to it sort of. But there's a rumor that in Marvel Spider-Man 2 there will be multiple swinging modes. So like easy would be probably what we got in the first 2018 game, no fall damage, things like that. Swinging's pretty easy, you know. Normal could have like maybe a little more physics and stuff involved, and it could be a little more like manual maybe. Also fall damage can be an option for normal, so you can turn that on or off. And then a hard swinging mode could be like super realistic, super physics based, and almost all manual controls in terms of like swinging and stuff like that. And fall damage as well, no option to turn fall damage off. It will always be on for hard mode. But for hard mode, you could be able to do like practically anything. Like I want to see stuff like the Raimi Spider-Man 2 truck scene, or maybe like Miles Morales scene where he swung around the construction thing, or maybe a more familiar scene in that being in Spider-Man 3, just before he gets to the final battle, he like swings around the pole to like launch himself up, sort of right before the Venom and Sandman fight. Or maybe like Spider-Man 3 swinging between cars as well, or maybe even like TASM 2 web climbing. That'd be cool as well too. Another thing, Spider-Man 3 where Peter launches himself upwards with his web to try to get to MJ. Stuff like that would be insane and make the web swinging that much better. And each mode can have like the trick system from Miles Morales game, obviously, though Pete and Miles have different sets of like tricks and like their styles are different. But that's all I got for the swinging modes and stuff like that. I thought about right trigger right hand, left trigger left hand swinging. We had that in one game before. I don't recall what one. Maybe it was Spider-Man 3 or another one, or was it Spider-Man 2? I don't know. But I'd rather keep it the way they have it in the game. If you didn't know, you can just push the analog stick to the left or to the right, and that's the hand that you're going to swing with. But I do kind of wish they would incorporate both hand swinging a little more in the animations. Not too much, but like a little more, you know. Another thing I would like them to add is the web cannon. I think we had this in Spider-Man 3, but in Spider-Man 3 it was kind of weird. You weren't able to do anything. It just launches you, and I think you had to wait for the animation to finish. So don't have it like that, and also don't have it only be specific points. Have it so like we can do it almost anywhere off any 2 surfaces. So to do this, maybe make a system to where like you can switch from your gadget wheel to like just your web shooters or something like that. And with this, you can aim at one point, and maybe there's like a prompt when you aim at another point, and you can press to start like a web cannon or whatever. Like there's a prompt, and you kind of pull back as far as you want, and it sends you flying. And while I'm on this, I kind of want that same thing, but not just to be able to do a web cannon, but I want to be able to web like 2 thugs together. If I can find a clip of of it, I'll put it here. If not, I think you know what I mean. Oh, I got it. Sort of like when in the 2018 game, right? You use a trip mine and you launch it on an enemy, and when it senses another enemy nearby, it webs the two enemies together, sort of like that. But I want to be able to do that like with just Spider-Man himself doing it, not the gadget, if that makes sense. Speaking of combat, I don't know, this might be controversial, I don't know. I really want to see the web strike in Marvel Spider-Man 2, but maybe not have it be so OP that that's the only move we end up using, like in Web of Shadows. I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Don't get me wrong, the web strike is one of the best Spider-Man game mechanics we've ever had, but it was so good and like so like overpowered in a sense that that's practically all we use to get through the game. Like me personally, at least, like that's all I use to get through the game for the most part, and I'm sure many of you who played the game did the same thing. So I want a system similar to that, but the way that they should do it, I think they should have like the web strike, right? So just to get you to an enemy, like the way they have it right now. But maybe when like you press triangle, you get another prompt as you're like launching yourself towards the enemy. You get another prompt in the middle of that so that you have the option to like do a web strike, but it's like sort of like a quick time event, but not like a cutscene quick time event. It's sort of like, I don't know how to explain it. I'll kind of try to like make it in the video to show what I mean. But like, so right, you press triangle, and then you get another prompt to sort of do the web strike, so that if you miss it, you miss it, but also if you hit it, you have to press another button to do like, you know, whatever attack, so it can feel a little rewarding when you actually get it off, sort of, if that makes sense. But you also have that system of like certain thugs being able to dodge it, so just to make it a little harder, so again, it doesn't get abused, or like maybe it doesn't do as much damage as regular air combat or ground combat or something like that. So it's just there for style and like wanting to just, you know, do different things and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty much everything I can think of gameplay and mechanics wise in Suits. So now onto the story and plot points I want to see. Let me just preface this next section of the video by saying I'm not a writer, okay? But these these are just like kind of general, like, you know, concepts I want to see, okay? So obviously Venom and Kraven are in the game, but who will be Venom? We don't really know yet. But remember the first game when they marketed it, they had the Sinister Six, but they kept one villain out of the marketing.
Wait, you?
Even to go as far as to hide the character when he called you, and it was revealed to be Doc Ock eventually. Yeah, so with that, if they were able to pull that off in the first game, what stops them from doing that in this second game? So something I would like to see them do in this game is Green Goblin. And I know what you're saying. They're gonna do it for the third game or whatever, but let me explain. It would really make so much sense in this second game, again, if this is the route they're going. But so yeah, I'm gonna kind of like just start from like the beginning and work my way through to like Norman becoming the Goblin. So in the beginning of the game, it's actually rumored that Pete and Miles are looking for the Sin Eater. Apparently, if you know anything about the Sin Eater, he's most famous for the death of Jean DeWolff. Jean DeWolff is typically a police captain for the NYPD, and in the first game we lost our NYPD captain, aka Yuri Watanabe. In the DLC, she went rogue trying to kill Hammerhead, so she lost her job, and we currently don't have a captain. So it would make a lot of sense to introduce Jean DeWolff as captain. Sin Eater usually ends up killing Jean DeWolff, but I'm not sure. I don't think they're gonna kill her off in this game if they introduce her in this game, because like if she's in this game, this is the first time we're gonna see her, so we don't have a connection with her. So maybe Sin Eater could kill someone else close to Pete or Miles, I don't know, or maybe he could just be going on a random killing spree, who knows. And we introduce Eddie Brock at some point, and he's trying to break the story of who the Sin Eater is, and we have a similar situation maybe to the comic where there's a fake one who ends up interviewing Eddie, so you know, he breaks that story, but eventually Pete catches the real Sin Eater, so Eddie gets fired, etc., loses his job, his apartment, everything he's worked so hard for. So that sets up Eddie hating Spider-Man. Keep in mind also, that's like super comic accurate to like the Venom origin story too. Not gonna lie, not sure where Kraven fits in the story, to be honest, so I don't know about him. I'm not really gonna, you know, talk too much about Kraven. But moving on later into the story, and of course like there's gonna be a lot more going on like in between each of these like concepts in the story, but I'm just generalizing what the story could be and like what I hope it is, at least. So now usually Venom is born by Spider-Man getting the symbiote first, right? right? Then he gets rid of it, but it kind of takes Peter's powers and, you know, copies it into its genetics or genomes, whatever, right? And that's how Venom can do anything Spider-Man can. But the thing is that currently, at least, Harry Osborn has the symbiote to keep him alive, which Norman created and Norman is trying to keep his son alive with. And with that, we've already gotten so many hints, at least like in nods to Norman becoming the Green Goblin. Like the post-credit scenes, there's literally green lighting like on his face and like just in the room and stuff like that. We find the mask in the MJ mission along with hand grenades. It's all there. Of course, Norman in the first game was trying to make that chemical to cure Harry, which was Devil's Breath, but you know, it was in like the fucked up stage, so that already screwed his plans up the first time, so he's already pissed off about that, on top of the fact that it ended up being a bad PR thing for him as well, because he was trying to run for mayor and all that stuff. And we already know he's not very fond of Spider-Man. And Peter found out, of course, about Harry and sort of what's going on with him, so assumingly somehow Pete will end up with the symbiote in the second game. But taking it from Harry Osborn, the only thing keeping Harry alive, that's what's going to push Norman. Norman doesn't know like who has the symbiote or whatever, like who took it from him yet, but he's going crazy trying to figure it out. Meanwhile, Pete has it, and he's of course changing over time and ruining his relationships with everyone, becoming more aggressive, not pulling his punches as much or whatever, you know. And one plot point I really want to see specifically is where Pete says something to Miles that hurts his feelings maybe and makes Miles considering to quit being Spider-Man. And maybe Pete says, you know, like, you're just a sidekick, a copycat of me, I'm the real deal, Spider-Man, New York doesn't need you, or something like that. And I think this would be interesting because Miles is a huge fan of Spider-Man, just like all of us. And it would hurt to hear those words from his mentor, his idol, the person that he looks up to, the one person that gets the chance to be his idol or an extension of his idol, whatever, you know what I mean? So now the rest of the story can go two different ways. So the first scenario, maybe MJ leaves Pete or something, and that could trigger Pete to realize, oh shit, like I gotta get rid of this costume or something. Maybe Norman could see on the news Spider-Man has a new costume and it looks familiar, so he thinks he stole it from Harry on purpose. So this is what could push Norman over the edge to become the Green Goblin and really hate Spider-Man and think Spider-Man's trying to kill Harry or some shit, I don't know. We get that infamous church bell scene where Spider-Man gets rid of the symbiote, and then while that's happening, Eddie obviously gets the symbiote, you know, and then like eventually like Norman finds out Pete is Spider-Man, and then he kind of like psychotically connects the dots. Oh, like Pete is Spider-Man, Pete is trying to take Harry from me or whatever, you know. And you know, they fight, but Pete can't do it on his own now that he doesn't really have the symbiote, so he asks Miles for help or something. They take him down together. Meanwhile, you know, like I said, Eddie gets the Venom symbiote. Maybe Kraven can jump back in the mix so that, you know, Pete fights Venom by himself and then it's Kraven versus Miles like on their own or whatever. Or the second way I could see this going is continuing from where Pete says some hurtful shit to Miles, right? Maybe Norman could see on the news Spider-Man has a new costume, it looks familiar, so he thinks he stole it from Harry on purpose, yada, all that stuff. So this pushes Norman to become the Green Goblin, right? He becomes a Green Goblin and is purposefully causing havoc to get Spider-Man's attention, and we get symbiote Spider-Man versus Green Goblin, which would kind of be interesting because typically Green Goblin is always, you know, usually just a psychopath that doesn't care. He wants to cause destruction, he doesn't care who gets hurt. Pete is usually trying to save everybody, stop Green Goblin from causing destruction, hurting people. But what if he had the symbiote fighting the Goblin? Would he care as much about saving people? Would he be pulling his punches still? Is he gonna let the rage consume him and just take it out on Norman and try to kill Norman? But you know, they battle, and maybe Miles could jump in the mix because he sees Pete about to kill the Goblin, and while they're arguing, Goblin can get away and get some more equipment, stuff like that. Meanwhile, Pete realizes, yeah, I almost killed that guy, and I said some hurtful shit to you, I didn't mean it, I ruined my relationship with MJ, it must be this costume. And we get the infamous Bell Church Tower scene. Eddie gets the symbiote, then we can get Venom versus Spider-Man, and maybe Venom got the drop on Spidey, is about to kill him until Green Goblin saves him, but you know, obviously not because he wants to save Spider-Man, but he just wants the symbiote back to try to keep Harry alive. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, not sure how either of these would end, but in general, a story of something like that I think would be pretty interesting for Marvel Spider-Man 2. But you know, in general, hopefully Eddie gets the symbiote, becomes Venom, and you know, they set that storyline up. Again, Kraven, I don't know how he's gonna fit into the story. It seems like Venom and Kraven will be the main villains of the first half, which sort of makes sense because Pete can take on Venom, Miles can go for Kraven, but then the Goblin, that'll definitely be a two-spider job. Unless Pete has a symbiote, then I guess he could probably take him on by himself, but Pete doesn't have the symbiote. It'll definitely be a two-spider better job, because Spider-Man by himself, you know, has trouble taking on the Goblin sometimes. Ultimately though, they hid the main villain in the first game, so who are they hiding for this second game? I'm pretty sure, like, you know, like, it's definitely possible they're hiding like the main villain for this second game. I think Norman Osborn's Green Goblin works well for this story and makes sense with like everything that we kind of have in front of us. So that's the general idea I'm hoping to see, because, you know, it makes sense. It sets up every villain in one way or another. And yeah, so what do you think of my story theory, and as well all the stuff that I want to see incorporated in Marvel Spider-Man 2? Make sure you comment your opinion down below so I can discuss all that with you in the comment section. Thank you for taking time out of your day to click on this video. If you're new to the channel, I cover Spider-Man related scoops, rumors, leaks, confirmations for the movies, TV shows, and games, along with some Marvel, Sony, DC movie news as well. And I try to upload as much as I can, so if any of that interests you, hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Let us know if you guys want more of this type of content. Don't forget to check out my latest video on the left if you haven't already. I hope you have or had a good day and that you enjoyed the video. Until next time.